All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, it is that time of the week, folks. My key games for the upcoming weekend in the world of college football. I'm going to start off with a big one tomorrow night in the Big Ten Conference as you have the fourth-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes traveling to Minneapolis to take on the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. And for the Gophers and head coach P.J. Fleck, they're looking to pull off an upset at home versus the Buckeyes and establish themselves as contenders in the Big Ten Conference. But for Ohio State, they played for the national championship last year. They lost to Alabama. And, for head coach Ryan Day, he's going with a new quarterback now and the youngster in CJ Stroud. And, this is his first season as far as being the Buckeyes full-time starter. And now, I think it's going to be important for the Buckeyes to really establish that running game early with Master Teague to set up the play action to wide receivers Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and try to keep this Minnesota defense on its heels. But you look at this Minnesota team, especially on offense, actually on both sides of the ball. The Golden Gophers, they're a very senior-laden team. These are all guys that have a long time in PJ Fleck's system now. And, they want to go out there and they have something to prove. You look at quarterback Tanner Morgan. He has seen his fair share of battles in the Big Ten Conference. And we saw what the Golden Gophers did when they came out of nowhere in 2019 to be one of the better teams in the Big Ten. But you look at the running ability of Mohamed Ibrahim. And I know that people are going to come into this contest talking about Master Teague, but make no mistake about it, Ibrahim can definitely carry the rock, and he's going to keep this Ohio State defense on their heels because they got to worry about him. And if Minnesota can establish that running game with that, with their good offensive line, it's going to set up the play action passing to a wide receiver Chris Outman Bell. You look at Minnesota; this is a very senior-laden team, like I said, on both sides of the ball. I guarantee you, PJ Fleck has been coaching up his team for this game all season long. Two very good teams, and I'm actually going to pick Minnesota to pull off the upset at home tomorrow night by the score of 30-24. Now, moving along to Friday in Blacksburg, you're going to have the 10th ranked North Carolina Tar Heels taking on the Virginia Tech Hokies, which is the ACC opener for both of these clubs. And over the years, Blacksburg has always been a tough spot for visiting teams to play, especially at night, which is what we're going to get here. But for North Carolina and head coach Mac Brown, you have quarterback Sam Howell, who I really feel is going to be the ACC Player of the Year. The only thing that really stopped him last year was that guy that was in Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, as far as being the best quarterback in that conference. Of course, Trevor Lawrence is now in the NFL. And it's Howell who is guiding this North Carolina offense. You look at this Tar Heels defense led by linebacker Jeremiah Gannell. They're going to keep this Virginia Tech offense for head coach Justin Fuente on their heels. And for Virginia Tech, they got to be able to try to slow down what North Carolina is going to do, especially being when you factor in this is a very good Carolina team that has the potential to win the ACC. Virginia Tech will be game, but North Carolina is simply the better team. Thus, I'm going to take the Tar Heels on the road by the score of 37-17. Now, moving ahead to Saturday, a big bash with perennial title contenders in the Big Ten is you're going to have the 19th ranked Penn State Nittany Lions traveling to Camp Randall to take on the 12th ranked Wisconsin Badgers. For Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford, he's been there for so long. He's seen his fair share of battles. But this is a very tough environment for him to go to, especially to start the season. I think for Penn State, they're going to look to get the football to their stellar wide receivers in Jahan Dotson and Parker Washington early and often in this game. And you look at a defense for the Nittany Lions that has something to prove, which is led by Ellis Brooks. It was a tale of two teams for Penn State in the 2020 season. They started off with that long losing streak, and then they finished off with the big winning streak. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of cohesion that the Nittany Lions have right out of the gate here in 2021. But it doesn't matter if it's Barry Alvarez, if it's Brett Bielema, or now Paul Chryst. Wisconsin always has a very physical team. They have strong linebacker play, and they can run the football. And for sophomore quarterback Graham Mertz, He's going to look to get the football, to a running back Jalen Berger in this game. But I look at the Penn State linebackers. I'm talking about Jack Sandborg and Leo Chanel. What are they going to do to disrupt Sean Clifford and that Penn State offense? I think they're going to do plenty. I think the crowd is going to be into this game, and I'm going to take Wisconsin at home by the score of 31-21. Now, in Atlanta, on Saturday afternoon, you're going to have the number one ranked team in the land. And I'm talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide, the defending national champions, clashing with the 14th ranked Miami Hurricanes out of the SEC. Now, once upon a time, these two proud and storied college football programs met in the Superdome for the national championship. And for Miami fans to this day, they still cannot stand to hear the name of George Teague. But in this matchup right here, the Tide are looking to begin their quest as the defending national champions. And for head coach Nick Saban, you know what? He doesn't rebuild, he reloads. And you look at all of the talent that left that Alabama club last year. Don't worry about it. You got a youngster at quarterback and Bryce Young, who is looking to get his feet wet as the next signal caller in Saban's offense. You look for Alabama, you think about them, they always establish the running game with run, and I think this time around it's going to be Brian Robinson and wide receiver John Mechie. I think he's going to have a big impact for this team this year. Now, offensively, I know Steve Sarkisian is no longer there. He was their offensive coordinator last year. He's the head coach at Texas. In steps Bill O'Brien, former Penn State head coach, former Houston Texans head coach. And, he was also a former assistant with the New England Patriots. And, of course, Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are like that. So you look at it, I don't think Alabama skips a beat on offense. You look at this defense with Christian Harris and Will Anderson and Malachi Moore. They're going to go out there and they're going to be flying all over the field. And this Alabama defense has what it takes to confuse a quarterback just like Miami's Derek King in this contest. I think for the Hurricanes, they've got to slow this game down and they've got to run the football a ton with Cameron Harris. You look at it, Miami, they're going to be game. And they are a good team, and they have the potential to win the ACC. But you're talking about not only the premier power in the SEC, one of the premier, if not the premier teams in the nation. And I think Alabama rolls at the Mercedes-Benz Dome, and this one by the score of 41-20. Now, getting back to the Big Ten, you're going to have the 17th ranked Indiana Hoosiers traveling to Iowa City to take on the 18th ranked Hawkeyes. And you look at it for Iowa, and head coach Kirk Ferentz doesn't really get those five-star quarterbacks to come to Iowa City, but what he does is he finds good game managers. And I think he has another solid one here in Spencer Petras. But when you think about the Hawkeyes under Kirk Ferentz, it's all about running that ball. And I think Tyler Goodson is going to look to get off to a strong start with a big game at home versus the Hoosiers. Defensively, Iowa is always solid for head coach Kirk Ferentz. And I look at their secondary this year with the likes of Jack Kerner and Riley Moss. But there's a lot of seasoned veterans on that flip side for Indiana, starting with quarterback Michael Penix. But you look at the Hoosiers defense led by Micah McFadden. This guy can bring it, and especially in Indiana as a whole, as they had 17 interceptions in just 18 games last season. I think this is going to be a good game. I think this has a potential to be one of, if not the best games of the weekend. But I'm going to take Iowa at home by the score of 34-27. Now you're going to have the 23rd ranked Louisiana Raging Cajuns traveling to take on the 21st ranked Longhorns of Texas as the Steve Sarkisian era begins there. You look for Louisiana, and it's a situation with quarterback Levi Lewis. This guy can play, as well as linebacker Lorenzo McCaskill and safety Braylon Trahan. I look at it, you know what? This is a very tough game for Texas to take right out of the chute with a new head coach who is looking to establish his system. Quarterback Hudson Card, he won the starting quarterback job, but I think what Texas has to do is establish that running game with Bijan Robinson, and it's a situation when you follow Sarkisian's career as a head coach, whether it be at Washington or briefly at USC, he loved to run the football. And I think this offense at Texas is no different from that. I expect wide receiver Joshua Moore to have an impact. And it's going to be important for Texas to score some points in this one because Louisiana is not a team that you can overlook, and they are going to make Texas work for it. I think the Longhorns will survive, but they're going to have to work by the score of 30-28. Now, in Charlotte, you're going to have the fifth-ranked Bulldogs of Georgia out of the SEC taking on the third-ranked Clemson Tigers out of the ACC. And these teams have met a couple of times over the years, and typically when they do, there are classics because you look at two teams right here that they really have the potential to win it all. And I'm talking about the national championship. So a loss here would hurt, but both of these teams still respectively have the ability to win their conferences. I look at Georgia at quarterback with JT Daniels, had a solid first year in 2020 for the Dogs, and I think he's looking to build off of that. But when you think about Georgia over the years, regardless of the head coach, they run the football, and Zamir White is the next stellar running back coming out of Athens. And I think he's going to have a big-time impact in this game versus that Clemson defense. You look at linebacker Nakobe Dean for the Bulldogs. He's going to lead this defense as they're going to try to make things tough for Clemson quarterback DJ Ugalele. And it's a situation where, you know what, Clemson, they took it on the chin in the Sugar Bowl last year when they lost to Ohio State. And I think for Dabo Sweeney and his bunch, they want to get back to business because they have a lot of swagger about them because you've seen what Clemson has done for the past 10 years. But this Georgia team, there's a different feel to it with Kirby Smart, and he knows the importance of this game. Both of these teams know the importance of this game, but I think Georgia really wants to go out there and set the tone. And I'm going to take the Dogs in this one by the score of 37-23. Now, a big one on Saturday night out on the West Coast is you're going to have the 16th ranked LSU Tigers traveling to take on the UCLA Bruins. And as the Bayou Bengals head west, they're going to deal with a UCLA club that is looking to not only get respect for themselves, but also the Pac-12 conference as a whole. And for LSU, they've been displaced recently because of the hurricane, but they're looking to get back on track and get some footing and go out there and play some solid football. And for head coach Ed Orgeron, looks like he's going with Max Johnson at quarterback, but it makes no difference because I think right now Louisiana State's got to establish that running game with Tyrion Davis-Price. You look at wide receiver Keyshawn Butte, he can have a big-time impact in this game versus this UCLA defense because when you think about Chip Kelly teams, defense is never really at the top of what they do good. Then on top of that, you're speaking of defense, I like what LSU has in their secondary with their corners with Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley Jr. As they want to try to go out there and make this UCLA offense one-dimensional. But I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson has to try to build off of last week. Didn't have a great game, but he needs to play better this weekend if they're going to go out there and pull off the upset, and especially running back Zach Charbonnet. He has to go out there and set the tone for this UCLA team. Defensively, the Bruins, they have a ton of veteran experience, and they need to bring it. They need to find a way to keep LSU off balance. And I think offensively, what the Bruins need to do, have long drives. I know when you think about Chip Kelly offenses, it's always bing, 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 but have long drives. Keep LSU's offense on the sideline, frustrate them, and wear that defense out. I think this is going to be a good game, and I think Chip Kelly has had this one circled for a long time as he's trying to establish himself at UCLA. And I think the Bruins do pull off the upset here by the score of 33-27. And finally, on Sunday, it's going to be the 9th-ranked Fighting Irish of Notre Dame traveling to Tallahassee to take on the Noles out of Florida State. Both of these teams have something to prove. Notre Dame did make the college football playoff last year before they lost to Alabama, and the Irish definitely want to get back there and ultimately win it all. Now, for Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly, he's going to look to the Wisconsin transfer Jack Cohn at quarterback. But I look at the Irish's running attack with Kyron Williams and Chris Tyree. They want to go out there and establish things and put some pressure on this Florida State defense, which they have the ability to. Defensively, Isaiah Foskey, this guy can bring it off the edge, and this Noles offensive line has to keep tabs on him. Now, for Florida State head coach Mike Norvell, he's entering year number 2, and he's going with the UCF transfer Mackenzie Milton at quarterback. Florida State, I want to see what a linebacker Amani Gaynor is going to do, but overall, the Noles are a very young team as Mike Norvell looks to establish himself in Tallahassee with this club. I think Florida State, they want to try to go out there and keep their fans into this one. Like I've said before in previous podcasts, for Florida State, it's a situation, their fan base has to be patient right here because it's a process for Mike Norville to get his guys to Tallahassee. But with that said, Notre Dame is the better team, and I'm going to take the Irish on the road by the score of 37-17. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.